3 Knockdown Rule. Starring Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Presented by Hustler Casino.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule brought to you by Hustler Casino is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario the Star Lopez. Great honor coming up. Can't wait for Thursday.
Thank you very much. We'll fill everyone in a little later. Quick shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier and
Tino on the edits. All right, a jam-packed show, the bout sheet for this week's program. The Killer Bees, Bivol and Beterbiev. We preview that matchup, fight review, news and notes, Ask Mario, and final flurries. But before we get started, we just want to let you know this podcast is sponsored by Hustler Casino. Beat the congestion and enjoy free parking every day at Hustler Casino. Introducing So Fine Sundays, where every Sunday you can win tons of cash with drawings every 2 hours from 12 noon to 8 p.m. Stop by and see how big you can win at Hustler Casino.
Round 1.
All right, we begin round number 1, Saturday afternoon from the Kingdom Arena. Once again, it's Riyadh season on ESPN+. And Mario, it's here for all the marbles. Undisputed at light heavyweight, Dmitry Bivol takes on Artur Beterbiev. Mario, we've been on opposite sides of the coin here. Are you sticking with Beterbiev?
I am sticking with Beterbiev. However, my confidence isn't as high as it was when this was initially announced. I'm a fan of both fighters. I think they're both excellent fighters with very different styles and both gentlemen outside the ring. I really like them as fighters and as people. And it's finally here. This was on my Mount Rushmore of fights that I really wanted to see, and for it to come to fruition is going to be nice. And I love, you know me, I'm a day drinker, so I love that it's in the afternoon. We'll be hanging out at Hustler Casino, enjoying this fine Saturday with a great fight. Going to have Pops there and some family, and we're all going to be hanging out, so it's going to be a really, really good time. Now, with all that said, I still feel Bivol is going into it with a little bit more momentum, being more active, and it's going to be the sniper versus the mongoose, right? It's going to be a battle of a contrast in styles, but at the end of the day, I think whose ever will is a little stronger and will not be broken will prove to be victorious. I don't think someone like Beterbiev will necessarily get old overnight, but you've got to be incredibly sharp and not lose a step to get through someone like a Bivol, because he knows what he's facing. I doubt he'll stand right in front of him toe-to-toe. I think we're going to see a very active guy. If Beterbiev is able to cut off the ring and eventually unleash his punches to a point where he's overwhelmed by the pressure, much like he did with Gvudzik back in the day, I see a lot of the same...
Broke the nail.
Yes, I see a lot of the same... At least in my head, I see the fight playing out a little bit of the same way. I think it's going to be a very, very tough fight for both of them. But I am leaning towards Artur to be victorious at the end. But hey, what do I know? That's why they fight the fights.
You know, Mario, this is actually one of the more elite matchups of the past decade. I looked at Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound list. Beterbiev is number 6, and I believe Bivol is number 7. We don't get this many matchups. All the marbles are on the line. The winner of this bout, in my view... they put open the velvet rope where that club where Terrence Crawford, Inoue, and Usyk is. That becomes the 4th member.
Yep.
And this is a matchup, the way I described it in K9's Corner, is that Bivol is more like the scalpel. Precise incisions as he cuts you up, while Beterbiev is that wrecking ball that just caves you in. So this is a classic boxer versus puncher matchup. And Mario, to what you stated, Bivol is closer to 40 than he is 30. While Bivol is 33, and you talk about the momentum. Yes. You talk about the momentum. This, for Dmitry Bivol, will be his 3rd fight in 10 months. Remember, this fight was supposed to take place a couple of months ago, and then Beterbiev, death taxes, and the yearly injury. Again, there comes a point when everybody, quote, unquote, gets old. I think that is one of the variables when you look at Artur Beterbiev coming into this weekend.
I agree. It is ironic that such a tough, rugged, hard man gets injured as often. Maybe because he hits so damn hard and does everything so intense.
He's hard but fragile.
Yeah,
it's in his own way.
In his own way, but has a granite chin too.
Yeah.
Don't let that be
Yeah.
confused, because he's taken some pretty hellacious shots and makes him all the more dangerous. But I think he's the kind of guy that lives a very clean lifestyle. And yes, he is nearing 40, but he keeps himself in impeccable shape. You ever see his workouts with the type of finger push-ups he does and the whole thing? The guy's like next level strength.
He takes to like the bench press barbell,
which is 45 pounds,
and he puts it like it's
a baton, and just starts.
Never seen anything like it.
Dude is like crazy strong, crazy strong. And that's why he's got a 100% knockout ratio.
20 up, 20 down.
Wow. So will Bivol be 21? I don't know if he's going to knock him out, but I feel like he will do enough to win. But again, it's a 50-50 fight, if I'm being honest. It's a 50-50 fight, but just something leads me to believe that Beterbiev will figure out a way, because as much as his power is celebrated, I feel he's a very underrated boxer.
Yeah.
He's been in there with Usyk and with great fighters. He's got strong pedigree.
Yeah, and the one thing about Bivol that's interesting, he's the type of guy that there's a Winky Wright feel to him. I remember Winky Wright during his prime, before he got the big fights. There were times he looked very pedestrian on ESPN2. And then all of a sudden, when he got in the ring with a Fernando Vargas, a Shane Mosley, and a Felix Trinidad, he shifted gears. He went from the Prius to the Porsche.
It's a good
That's what I see a lot with Dimitri Bivol.
He does play up to his level of opposition. And so far, he's shined, so we'll see.
And I'm going to stick with Bivol here just to mix it up. I believe Bivol has to do two things. Number one, box, but I think early on, look, is he a devastating puncher in the realm of Beterbiev? No, because no one is. But I do think he has to earn, as Bobby Ches used to say, the pound of flesh. He's a pretty good puncher that can layer the 1-2 combinations, probably better than anybody. So he's going to have to earn his respect, because Beterbiev is like a rock slide. Once he starts coming, it becomes an avalanche. You're going to have to halt that momentum a little bit, build an early lead, then box. Now, if you can hurt Beterbiev, and we've seen Beterbiev stunned and knocked down, but he's one of those guys, when he gets up, he's a different guy. It's uncanny. Certain guys get weaker from knockdowns, like Anthony Joshua. Beterbiev's like a Trinidad or a Joe Louis.
Right.
They get more monstrous. I'm going to take Bivol to build an early lead, have some rough moments, and see the finish line, and he'll win a close decision. And Mario, do you agree? Winner of this fight is on the upper crust of boxing right now?
I think he's in the top four, like we just said. It would be Usyk, Inoue, Crawford, and Bivol or Beterbiev, should they prove victorious. So I'm sticking with Beterbiev in a very close fight. I don't know he might knock him out, but I think he'll do enough to have his hand raised.
Right, and so that'll be on ESPN Plus. Now, the undercard, which will also feature these bouts, Jai Opetaia defending his IBF Cruiserweight title against Jack Massey. Heavyweight rematch of what was a very good fight several months ago. Fabio Wardley takes on Frazier Clark. And then middleweight, Chris Eubank Jr. takes on Kamil Szczermeta. And that'll be streamed on The Zone. All right, when we come back, we go through everything else. We'll be back with more of the 3 Knockdown Rule, brought to you by Hustler Casino.
Catch the streaming live right on YouTube.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
$1.2 million.
And I'm losing in this fucking game. What the fuck?
There's a 400K flip. If I win by the way, you get 10 grand.
Fucking straddle!
For my fans!
What? I read it twice!
Wow. All in a call.
I'm not fucking leaving!
Raise it up.
And we're back on the 3 Knockdown Rule, brought to you by Hustler Casino. Hey, folks, are you looking to get involved with the 3 Knockdown Rule and sponsor our show? We have some spots available. Please email us at info@boxbid.io. Once again, that's info@boxbid.io. Boxbid is an online platform that helps professional boxers connect with their fans by providing exclusive Fight Week merchandise, memorabilia, and sponsorships. You can even buy a shout-out on Boxbid. Boxbid.io handles our sponsorships, and we are proudly working with Boxbid.io.
Review preview.
All right, taking a look at some of the fights that took place last week. Friday, from down under Sydney, Australia, IBF Middleweight Championship of the World was retained by Janibek with a 9-round bludgeoning of Andrei Mikhailovich. Mario, the only thing braver than Mikhailovich
is the ref.
And the corner. My God. What were they thinking?
First of all, I want to give Janibek a shout out for just making the weight. I honestly thought that might be the last time that I would see him at middleweight, because getting to know him a little bit, training over at Brickhouse Boxing.
Big guy.
Big guy, really nice guy, humble. That's the kind of guy you want to cheer for. Always works hard, very prepared. But I just thought his body might have outgrown it, and he didn't look like he was suffering. Usually, you feel drained. You looked a little drained. He didn't. He was sharp on his toes. If you try to box with Janibek and try to stay at the end of those punches, forget about it. You're going to get carved up. He does that beautiful little uppercut from that jab uppercut and pivots, and he such a nice combination puncher. After that second round, I can't believe how his opponent was able to survive. It could have been called right then and there, but to his credit, he's a tough dude. He hung in there for a few more rounds. He had a little success when he was fighting on the inside. Maybe that's a blueprint on to have some success against Janibek, to smother him and to fight on the inside. But once he started getting towards the end of those punches again, and Janibek started getting the end of those distance, pivoting again with those sharp rights and those uppercuts, he looked beautiful. He looked sharp. He's the most dangerous man in the middleweight division. I would not want to face him. And the only thing that I think is his Achilles heel is killing himself to make that weight. If he gets against a guy who might be able to push the gas a little bit and force him into some deep waters, who knows how that'll affect his body. But skill-wise, he's the man.
Watching that fight go on in round 6, 7, 8, and then 9, it reminded me of that famous line when Chuck Wepner was cut up. He literally needed like 90 stitches against Sonny Liston. So the fight's finally stopped. This guy looks like he could give blood to Red Cross. And they come up to Sonny Liston. Sonny, wasn't Chuck Wepner? Isn't he the toughest guy you ever fought? And Liston just deadpan. No, his manager was.
That's a great line.
I mean,
that's a great line.
I'm just watching this going, what is the point? I mean, look, Mikhailovich is tough, but he's not the type of guy that has the one-punch eraser. Now, as for Janibek, one of his mandatories, if you go by the ratings, is Hamza Shiraz. That's an unbelievable. Now, I believe that Hamza Shiraz will be coming back February 22nd in Saudi Arabia. I've been told.
Adamas, correct?
Maybe. Carlos Adames, who has a belt. But this is the fact for Janibek. Even though he might be still a unified belt holder, I don't know what's going to go on with that WBO title. He's a guy that we've seen him beat the B class. And look, as good as he's looked, we have to be honest about it. He's not facing Marvin Hagler or Carlos Monzon here. He's doing what he's supposed to against overmatched guys. And if I am our good friend
Ricky Funes,
I'm thinking, where do I roll the dice here? But also, as it relates to the manager of Janibek, we just had him in studio. I'm drawing a blank here. Usyk's manager.
Oh, my God. Egis Klimas.
Egis Klimas. You have to now say to yourself, okay, we are not a priority with Top Rank. Top Rank really didn't bid a lot on this fight, which is why it was handled in Australia by a rival promoter.
Did we ask Todd when he was here his bad hand?
No, we didn't.
We even didn't ask him. That's our bad.
That's our bad.
That's our bad.
And my
damn, Kim.
And it's on me. And my view is that we've already seen him beat certain level of guys. I mean, he fought a unification bout last year that I don't even remember the guy's name because it's one of the most nondescript champions. In fact, he was a belt holder, this guy. He fought like 12 months ago. He wasn't even in the Ring Magazine top 10, which rarely happens. So I almost believe at this point, for Janibek's own marketing, he needs to have one of those guys. Now, and I believe a lot of that is going to be at the discretion of one Turki Al-Sheikh. They're the ones who are going to make this happen because they're going to provide the money.
Do you think it's far-fetched to think he goes up to 168?
Oh, I think it's inevitable down the line.
But I'm saying, I'm talking, say he doesn't get one of these fights we're discussing right now. If he goes to 168, is he automatically a player in the mix with some of the, I don't see anybody wanting to face him, even a Canelo.
You know what? You bring up a good point. If you're poisoned at 160 and you're not much of a draw, they have not marketed him or kept him busy like a Golovkin who became a thing. He's just a really, really dangerous fighter that brings a lot of risk and no reward. You're right. What is he now without a belt?
Right.
I mean, which champion at 168, and there's really one, there's Canelo. Canelo probably has 20 other options that are more palatable than Janibek. Now, I'll say one thing about Janibek. If you put Janibek in there with Canelo, I believe, unlike a few of his more recent opponents, Janibek will play to win the game.
I agree. And I think at 68, he carries that frame well. Yeah. He might even have a little bit more pop. He could be a very dangerous opponent. But I also agree that that'd be the last person that Canelo would look at. I was just curious and thinking out loud, what is a better business decision for him?
Well, the belts matter. And if you can get an Otomus, and again, Hamza Shiraz, if he really wants to challenge himself and do something old school like we talked about, where James Toney said, you know what, I'll take on the number one guy, Michael Nunn. I remember a day, Ray Mancini, when he was the number one contender at age 20, you know who held the belt when he was number one? Alexis Arguello. He did not hesitate. Now, these things do not happen anymore. That is the reality. But for Janibek, he's starting to, I don't want to say create a buzz, but it's clear. As of right now,
he looked good these last 2 fights.
In a watered-down 160, he is number one in my view. And I want to see what direction Hamza Shiraz goes to, because that's another dangerous, lethal guy.
Well, I agree with that, but I also would hope that it comes to fruition, the Adames fight.
Yeah.
I think that then you maybe got some buzz, too.
Yes.
2 champions.
Now you have 3 belts. The winner of that has 3 belts, and they're one from consolidating 160. Also, Saturday in England, the WBA featherweight title was retained by Nick the Wrecking Ball with a knockout in 10 over the game. Ronnie Rio scoring 3 knockdowns. Also, moving ahead, this Sunday and Monday, all we could say is bonsai. From Tokyo, Japan, there's back-to-back cards on ESPN featuring a cadre, big word there, cadre of title fights. Takuma Inoue, the brother of the Monster, he defends his bantamweight title. And then on Monday, October 14th, for the WBC bantamweight title, Junto Nakatani, he makes another title defense. Our good friend Rudy Hernandez is out there. Also, Kosei Tanaka and Tony Olasquaga, they will be defending their title. So again, boxing fans will have a lot to watch on that weekend and starting next week.
News and notes.
News and notes. Mario, your thoughts. December 14th, we're going to try to get this young man on. Lamont Roach is being moved up from 130 to 135. He'll be facing one of the best punchers and most lethal finishers in the game today, Gervonta Tank Davis, Houston, Texas, at the Toyota Center.
Look, I like when champions face each other. The fact that Tank, though, has fought as high as, what did he fight Barrios?
140.
Yeah, and then he's fighting a guy that's coming up from 130. If Tank wants to be the, quote, face of boxing, you've got to face these other big names. You've got to face the Shakurs, the
Teofimo,
the
Haney's,
the Teofimos. Those are the names we need to see, or else I think people are going to start going the other direction. And I'm a fan of Tank.
Yeah.
And I think you almost have to favor him in all those fights. Why isn't it happening, don't you think?
That's a great question. Shakur signed with Matchroom, and then he broke his... Remember, Shakur's supposed to fight this weekend.
I remember that.
But I don't know if there was any serious conversations about that. Teofimo, look, when Todd DeBuff doesn't even know what's going on with Teofimo's career, I don't put that on Tank or anybody. Now,
but let's pause it for a second. I know Teofimo's been sort of antagonizing Crawford.
Right.
I wish you would have directed that energy towards Tank, because I think that's a much more durable fight, and I think that's a good fight, and I actually think that's a fight he can win.
Right.
Do you?
I agree, because let's be realistic here. Last time we saw Crawford, he was a junior middleweight.
Right. Exactly.
And so I don't know what's going on with Teofimo. It's always something.
Right.
That's just
the
reality.
The Tank fight's a very realistic fight, and that's an exciting fight, and I think they do big business.
I'll say this on behalf of Lamont Roach. I'm a fan. Doug Fisher, Beto, we got to call some of his early fights when he was fighting under the Golden Boy banner. Very solid individual. Very good, solid, fundamental boxer. Fighting with a little bit more passion and vigor. I was impressed in his last fight against Fergal McCrory.
Yeah.
He's very solid. I wish he could punch this much harder.
Well, that's the thing. The power differential.
And I wish he was a lightweight. That's the other thing. Now, we're going to try to get Lamont on the show down the line, because I'd like to talk to him. It's a big opportunity.
No, it's huge, but the power differential, I think,
matters.
is a factor.
It matters.
It does matter.
And,
they don't have a lot of wiggle room for error.
And you have to pitch a perfect game almost. Like you saw with Frank Martin. Even though Frank Martin may have won the first couple of rounds, I kept saying, you're only about 10 rounds from winning this fight, and you're going to have to really be clean. And by round 5, it was almost like Jaws. You saw the fin, and you heard the music. And you're like, uh-oh. Oh, no, it's going to get bloody.
Good analogy. That was a good one, Kim, once in a while.
And you're like, oh, God, look out. Get out from shore. And you saw what happened. Lamont is a rugged little boxer who I think punches better than people think, because he's punching with more conviction. There's also this factor, and it's really too bad his fight's not in the Beltway. Lamont Roach is from D.C., Gervonta's from Baltimore.
Why isn't it
So they're
out
pretty
there?
familiar. I think it was
That's
venue.
it was right next to each other.
Right, so it's venue availability. But only in boxing could you have one guy from D.C. and Baltimore. We'll go to Houston. But you know what?
Makes zero sense.
That fight will sell well, though, because Tank has proven anywhere in the United States, he will draw a crowd. So I'm not worried about that.
I would have liked to have seen the crowd, though, because they're literally neighboring cities. That
Right.
would have been great.
So I wish Lamont well, and Lamont knows what he's getting into. I spoke to Lamont a couple weeks ago, and look, he's one of these guys, he's not afraid. He's going to try his best, but there is a reality that when Tank hits you, stuff happens.
I know.
I mean,
That's
the
the
way
only
he
thing.
makes people just kind of weeble and wobble, and they do fall down.
And the
you're
Frank
like,
Martin fight, I think, was a good example of that, who was having some success, but once he started getting that timing, got the rhythm a little bit, didn't take too many punches to catch him.
it seemed inevitable, didn't it? The knockout.
Yeah, when once he did start to connect. So we'll see if that's the case.
Also, December 24th, little Christmas present.
Little Christmas present.
I kind of like it. And
Dude, on a Tuesday?
This is what they do in Japan, the land of the rising
Dude, on
sun.
a Tuesday.
They're disciplined people out
You
there.
gonna watch this at my house? You don't have anywhere to go to.
Yeah, I
for
guess
Christmas?
we can open up Christmas gifts. The one you won't give me, little stuff. But in a way, the monster is back. Third fight of the year against one of his mandatories, Sam Goodman.
Dude, this is like, remember in Rocky? Didn't he fight in Christmas in Rocky 4?
He did. It was televised by the USA Network. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
and he fought on Christmas, huh?
In Siberia or Russia.
Yeah, one of those. Isn't that in Siberia and Russia?
Yeah, but Siberia is a different part of Russia, though.
yeah.
But I love the fact that Inoue just says, you know what? We're not waiting around. We're going to fight. This is what we do.
Love that.
And Sam Goodman, for whatever anyone wants to say, it's another top 10 rated guy. And I do hope, I'm going to reiterate this, that MJ Akhmadaliev is on that dance card. And it was confirmed last week by our good friend Todd DeBuff. Come 2025, Inoue is going to be like Prince Hakim and Simi coming to America. And that'll be one of the biggest events. Clear off that weekend. It'll be the last chance you ever get to see him live in the States.
As we talk about this date happening on Christmas Eve, Rocky Balboa style, it makes me think of the year in review. I know we're going to get into it, probably do a special show about that. But so far, I'm not disappointed, I don't think.
It's been a decent year.
It's been decent. There's some, I wish it was a little, there's a couple more, but it hasn't been as frustrating as I thought.
I have a question. As of right now, who's your fighter of the year? Let's say he takes care of Goodman in style, does the usual. That would mean 3 solid contenders or 3 solid guys in the top 10 in the division that he mowed down. Neri, TJ Doheny, and then Goodman. Now, does that trump the 2 upsets or the recent work done by Daniel Dubois, who beat Anthony Joshua? And now, Canelo had 2 guys that he's supposed to beat, younger guys that didn't have losses on their record, but he was like 15-1 favorites.
What if Bivol is victorious?
Yeah, the winner of this weekend. Now, Bivol, that would be his, I believe, second fight this year.
Depending on how impressive the victory is.
Yes, that matters.
That matters. If it's an impressive victory, you almost got to lean towards Bivol, I would think.
Yeah.
Right now, and unless Inoue has yet another outstanding performance.
Right, and I generally, if you've only fought once this year, I can't give you the award.
Yeah.
I just can't. I just think from a principle standpoint, I wish there was a rule that said you had to fight at least 3 times to get this award, but again, I'm a dreamer. All right, moving on. Ask Mario. Here's one from Ryan Longer. Have you or the Kimster ever been to a presidential museum, library, or former residence?
A random question.
Yeah.
Presidential.
Well, you get invited to that big stuff.
I've been to the White House a bunch.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. No, I've been a few times. Just for work and stuff. Well, maybe like 5 times.
What's it like?
Is that a bunch?
What's it like, the security process?
5 times is more than most people.
Right.
So yes.
Yeah. That's like I
that's a
said. Yeah.
bunch.
But that's because I've interviewed too. Dude, I'll go back as the first time I think I interviewed Dan Quayle back there. And I can remember when Vice President, what was that, like 4 administrations ago?
Did you ask him how to spell tomato?
Yeah, I know. You remember that. That's old school. And then President Obama, President Clinton. Who else? What did I
Wait,
the
didn't
Bushes?
you go to the
Had
White
one
House
of the
once
Bushes?
at night when Trump wasn't there?
Yes, then I was there during the Trump administration too. Yeah, I've been there a few times. You know, first of all, the security is not as crazy as you would think. I mean,
Really?
obviously it's strict, and you have a couple of vantage points. But yeah, it's all over. So everything's surveyed, or the surveillance and stuff. What's the trip is when you walk into the White House, dude, like the Oval Office, not that much. It's not that big.
It's just
I've been to a lot of executive offices that are much bigger than the Oval Office. It's not, it's the Oval Office in the history, but it's not that big. The actual White House itself is not that big. I'm sure Trump's property had to downsize.
Right.
Because Mar-a-Lago is like huge. You know what I mean? It's really not. It's just all about the history.
Yeah.
And stuff there in D.C. It was put there because at the time it was very swampy. And it was very cheap real estate. The weather there gets awful where the actual setting is. But D.C. is fun to go see all the monuments all right there. I love history, so it's fun to go. But as far as anybody other's home, I don't know about their home other than the White House. Just a few
Reagan's
times.
library is awesome.
Reagan's library, here, So that's pretty much it and stuff.
All right, here's one from David. He had several questions. Mario, some true or false? Ryan beats Haney in a rematch.
What? Wait.
Let's say they fight at 140 with everything on the up and up.
I don't think with everything on the up and up. I think so. I got to be honest with you.
Me too. And by the way, we got to get into this. We didn't talk about this litigation from Devin Haney. Not a good look.
Whoa, he's if he would have he's like Alec Baldwin in this sense.
Okay.
If both of them would have just been quiet
and
not said anything after their incidents, I know they're totally different. They're totally different.
Why? You're tying those two things
together.
Well,
because in this sense, I think both of them being so vocal and talking about it so much and doing these outrageous things did more damage to themselves. If Alec Baldwin would have just been quiet afterwards, everybody would have said, like, damn, that's because, come on, he didn't mean to kill like that. What a tragic, awful accident. He must be hurting so bad. But when the gun, it wasn't my fault.
He tried to act like the victim.
Yeah, he tried. Then people are like pissed. They're like, bro, it's a bad look. That's what I mean. If Haney would have just been quiet, then people would have been like, oh man, he took steroids.
In other words, silence is golden.
It is. And now with the videos and the antics, and now you're suing. People are. You're not going to get any sympathy. Does that make sense?
I do, and I'm going to add this. Something I've said before. I do believe Haney was the victim of some chicanery. The drug test was what it was, and it's obvious that Ryan skirted the 140-pound weight limit. But with that being said, we've seen other fights where guys did not make weight. But you know what the defending party does? They say, hey, morning of, they're going to put a cap on you. You can't weigh more than this. They waived all of that. They decided to go on with the fight as is. Some of that has to be on the blame themselves.
Well, that's why I think, because I'll tell you what I think they thought. They saw Ryan partying out there. They heard about his stories being out and about, and they probably thought he wasn't taking it serious, and it wouldn't matter. Which makes me feel more confident about him in the rematch, because I think he'll be a little bit more prepared. Or one would assume he'd be a little bit more focused and prepared and wouldn't be as partying. So a little more disciplined, focused, Ryan, knowing that he can hurt him, and with all the stuff that he's already got in his head, that's why I think he beats him in the rematch.
There was an arrogance with Team Haney thinking that under any conditions we can give up every single advantage. We're that much better and technically more sound.
That's exactly what
I think
got
shattered.
Shattered by a dude that was out here partying till 3.
Right. So
yeah, I'm feeling confident about him in the rematch.
Dana White becomes a serious boxing promoter. Because he said it a few times. There's actually a pattern where he said, I'm going to get into boxing. And that began in like 2018. Do you think he's serious this time around?
I think he is. I don't think Dana ever says things that he doesn't mean. And, he's working with Tom Loeffler, and he's got Callum Walsh under, and I think he's sort of kind of dipping his toe. He's obviously got his hands full with UFC and Power Slap, and he's got a lot of other stuff going on. I think he's the kind of guy, though, that really wants to have a lot of his ducks in a row and really make a big splash when he's going to do it. If he's going to do it, I think he's going to do it. But I think he's sort of giving us teasers right now. Previews.
The difference with this statement is this time around, he's now aligned with Turki Al-Sheikh. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference.
That's a variable that cannot be overlooked.
And I welcome it. Dana involved, that could be awesome.
All right, here's another one. There is a stoppage in Fury Usyk 2, which takes place December 21st.
Well, that was a great fight. We saw it together at Hustler, coincidentally. And I remember Fury hurting Usyk after having some success to the body, and I thought, ooh, another one of those.
It was all going one way.
It was all going one way. Maybe he gets that stoppage. But then again, Usyk, being the type of individual he is, bit down to that mouthpiece, came back and almost stopped him. So I don't think a stoppage is out of the question at all. Who stops who remains to be seen, but man, it's hard to count out Usyk in anything these days.
Yeah, I think the fight's going to look very similar to the first fight. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and let's see who has the bigger moment. We'll get into that fight a little bit later. Number 4, Richard Steele made the wrong decision. Oh, hell yeah, he did. March 17th, 1990. Worst
We're
decision
still talking about that
ever. Yes!
10 years.
I'll never get over it. Poor Meldrick.
I really hope you're playing, and I'm going to tell you why, and be serious for a second. After you watch the fight, and I've seen it dozens of times, and it was probably the best episode of Legendary Nights, most poignant, I would say.
Sad.
And I'll never forget Freddie Roach, who was there sitting front row. He told me Fernando Valenzuela was also in the same row. Freddie, again, who was there, had it even going into the 12th round. Ask him. Had it even going into the 12th round. And Richard Steele, who I've talked to, also had it even going into the 12th round. And Richard said, Mario, people don't know these shots he was hitting them with. I could hear him, and it was almost like you heard the bones cracking. And yes, he was so lightning fast. To this day, probably one of the fastest hands I've ever seen with Meldrick Taylor. And he was peppering them, but look at the faces too. It wasn't doing the damage.
I don't disagree with any of that.
And look at the way it played out afterwards, talking about the damage and having those types of effect. He was never the same man again. And at the end of the day, he didn't answer. All he had to do was say yes. He didn't answer.
He was distracted
Steele.
by
Well, whose fault is that? But he didn't answer. He didn't answer, and that's it. Doesn't matter.
Terrible.
If you're winning the race, you fall down right before the finish line. You didn't win.
And finally, Steve beats you up playing the new boxing video game, Undisputed. The last video game I was good at was Galaga. Or Arkanoid.
First of all, kill you in Galaga. I'll kill you in Galaga.
No way. Now,
kill you
when I get the double guy?
No, when I get
the double guy.
Galaga's my jam. Miss Pac-Man, kill you in all those old school games.
You won't beat me in Arkanoid.
He won't be.
I don't even know what Arkanoid is.
He's
What
not
is
gonna be in
Arkanoid?
Street Fighter.
Yeah, well, Arkanoid.
Oh, yeah, Street Fighter,
Arkanoid
done.
was basically Breakout, but with steroids. You got those little vitamin pills that make you the shooter. They would multiply the ball. I almost finished the game one time,
dude.
but I choked at the end.
I don't remember Arkanoid.
Arkanoid
was that an arcade game? Or
arcade
a home
game, absolutely. And it was like Breakout, but you'd get like vitamin pellets.
I don't remember.
And
Breakout.
sometimes they'd give you a free guy.
You're going way too back, dude. Stick with Galaga. Galaga was good. You know which other one I'll kill you in? And it was our era too. Centipede.
Centipede, yeah.
Remember that? That was good.
I wasn't that good in Centipede.
Dig Dug. I'll blow you up, walk through you, and then go back and blow you up again.
I always struggled in Donkey Kong. Could never get Mario up the ladder, to be honest with you. Wasn't good at that. Here's one from the Mex Best Thing. Why hasn't Top Rank ever bid or tried to get into the Canelo business? Looks like they want Mbili against Canelo, but a little too late. Here's the issue. First of all, they had other things, but when Canelo signed a deal with the Zone, even when Canelo was going through issues with Golden Boy, Bob Arum said, Steve, we can't get involved. He has a deal with the Zone. All our stuff has to go to ESPN.
How did he have a deal outside of the promoter? I thought the promoter was tied into that deal.
Well, they were, but again, it's Canelo. It's different. Well, I mean, look, Canelo remained on the Zone while he left Golden Boy. Remember that whole litigation?
Yes, I didn't. That's the first I've ever seen of that. Because usually it's the deal with the promoter.
I'm not so sure Top Rank really wanted to get involved with Canelo in a sense that, geez, this guy comes pricey. Now, he creates a lot of business, but there's a certain security in just having to pay guys regular amounts of money.
Yeah.
But it's funny. You're right. They've never actually sniffed around. I know there have always been rumors. And
That's interesting.
Bob told me one time, he goes, Steve, again, we have to be exclusive to ESPN.
Another thing we should ask Todd. Damn, Kim.
Yeah, well, he'll be back. Here's one from Apex Jones, a good friend of ours. Yours and Mario's top 3 fights all time.
Fights we've seen in person or just fights?
In general.
That's too broad.
In person. Executive decision.
Okay,
Well,
in person.
I know my
number
one.
Well, hold on. I'm going to answer since this is the thing. Fights I've seen in person.
Okay, that's a tougher one.
Ooh. In no particular order, just off the top of my head. Dude, I like the Vasquez-Marquez fight a lot.
Which one? 1 or 3? Because the third one was the one that really made the war ground something in Carson. One of the most special
we were
nights.
there, both of them. So, yeah, okay, pick one. Okay, so that one.
It's
so
number
just that
3.
rivalry. Okay.
That's on my top 3.
Just for event, dude, I don't know why Pacquiao-Cotto comes to mind. That was so much fun.
Really?
That was
Okay.
just a fun event.
Yeah.
Pacquiao-Cotto, you know what I mean? That I've been able to attend. Oh, gosh, because I'm racking my brain because we saw a lot when we saw Chavez and Jones and all this, but those fights aren't as memorable as the other. Well, when I was at the Holyfield Bow fight when Fan Man came in.
You were at Fan Man.
I was at Fan. I was sitting next to Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I kept hitting him. I go, dude, I think this guy's gonna parachute. He's like, no, he's not. I go, I'm telling you, I think he's gonna parachute in the ring. Sure enough, he came.
So
I don't know why. I don't know why. Off
right.
the top of my head, those came off the top of my head as memorable. Heavyweight.
Okay.
I like, you know what I mean?
All right,
But
I'm going to go for fights that I covered, and I was there for pure
there's so
action.
many.
Number one with the bullet, though, and I've always said, when I'm done with this,
Castillo Corrales.
it'll always be number one, and I'm good with it. In fact, Boxing News ran a survey, top 50 fights of all time. I'm in the magazine. I helped contribute a little bit. It was ranked in the top 3, and I'm blessed to have been there. Castillo Corrales.
I know, it's true. I wasn't
the
at that
Mandalay
one.
Bay.
Damn it. Not a lot of people were at that one
No,
either.
it wasn't. And it was so interesting because the reason why is because the next week, Trinidad Winky Wright was in Vegas. So people had to make a decision. Which one am I going to?
But I would just, De La Hoya Vargas was a great fight. I remember those stuff. De La Hoya. Gosh, I know I was at that one too. It's just so many. It's hard.
The other two.
Because are we going on events? Are we going on action? Are we going on memorable? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the criteria?
Because before we narrowed it down, to me, a special fight that'll always Hagler Hearns. But again, we were kids.
No, but you weren't at that fight.
Right.
I said
That's
at
what
that
I mean.
fight.
The other 2 fights that I was at that I will say, and there's always been 4 or 5 fights that have stood out to me. But for pure action, Bradley Provodnikov and Carson, the coldest night ever. You could barely type because the finger, you almost felt like you were getting frostbite.
Remember we were there when we were in a rainstorm?
Waterworld, Scott Quigg, Oscar Valdez, March 2008.
Rainstorm,
and we,
dude.
We stuck it out.
We stuck it out, umbrellas and stuff,
and
we were drinks.
And I would say that Vasquez Marquez 3 was so special.
Oh, wow. So we say it on one of them,
because Stallone, Sylvester was there, Jack Nicholson was there. It was a full house. And I remember for about 20 minutes, nobody left. Yeah. There was this buzz in this arena. You're like, this is really, really special.
Dude, that reminds me, too. I was also at Barrera Morales won the What a War.
I called that fight.
That was a great fight.
I did the international.
Morales won, and then being,
I was lucky to go to all 3.
Yeah.
But that first one is certainly in my Mount Rushmore. And in terms of an event with historical...
That was a great one. See, damn.
Significance. The one thing I'll never forget was being there, Hopkins, Trinidad September 29th, 2001, because me and Doug Fisher, 2 days, were 2 days from going into Newark. Mm-hmm. We had booked the flights for that Wednesday. And I'll never forget that Tuesday morning, I get a call from Gary Randall, who's the webmaster. He was one of our partners at Max Boxing. He calls me at 6 o'clock. And I go, why are you calling me? He goes, Steve, you're not going to believe this, but the Twin Towers, a plane ran into him. Turn on the news, and I asked the dumbest question of all time, because I just woke. I said, was this done on purpose? Because I didn't really know it, and you're just transfixed, and then they...
Well, no, you were professional.
Right, and then... You were correct. Yeah, and then we were told that the fights and all the football games that weekend, athletic events would be tabled.
Yeah.
And then you come to September 29th. Now, everything had changed in terms of how you went through security. You could no longer bring in bottled water at a certain size. All your things had to be travel size now. TSA completely changed. And then as you're there that night at the Garden, the one thing that sticks out to my mind, middle of the undercard, fights promoted by Don King, they brought in the first responders. And everyone just stood up and just gave them a standing ovation. And then before the main event, they honored those that were there and had lost their lives, and they played that song, I Will Remember. I've never seen so many people cry at one time.
Yeah, dude, it was still so fresh. That's hard. You can't get over that. Another random fight that came into mind that was so awesome. If you had the opportunity to see it, Pavlik Jermaine
Taylor
I wasn't
there for that one.
How great was that fight?
Atlantic City, 2007.
Wasn't that a fantastic fight?
Came this close to getting stopped in round 2.
I know.
Pavlik.
Wasn't that a great fight?
That was.
That was a fight. And then random, last thing I'll say that I was at, it was the weirdest thing being at Staples Center, and I was hosting the fight, and there were nobody in the audience, and I was the only one, me and my buddy Tootie, that got to see Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones.
You did that for...
Nobody in this arena. I'm like, I'm watching Mike Tyson by myself. Here, right there.
That was for Triller.
Yeah, do you remember that?
I remember Triller.
But that was wild. Yeah. Nobody was there.
And one last event I'll mention that was very surreal and strange to be at, believe it or not, was the first fight card HBO did after 9/11. It was Shibata Flores against Fernando Vargas at the Mandalay Bay. And this is during football season, so it's September 22nd.
Yeah.
To see a Vegas casino that empty during a football weekend was actually surreal. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a strange time.
Well, that was a strange time, man.
Well, that's a top 13, not 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we gotta melt it down a little bit.
Final flurries.
Mario, moving on to final flurries. You know what? There were no major fights this weekend in boxing.
But there were in the stands.
There were at Chavez Ravine. What was that like? Oh,
so
man.
Saturday, I couldn't go to the game. I had to do a quick trip to Tucson, Arizona. Dude, we were in October, right?
Yeah.
It was 108 at Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, it's cooling down
108 cooling down. Can you believe that this late? That's wild. Anyway, very nice people over there. I was actually in Phoenix and then I went to Tucson. Hot in both places. So I didn't go to the game on Saturday, but I went on Sunday. I was a little skeptical about our pitching, and the Padres were looking great right now. Got off to a hot start. Didn't look back. I don't know why you would fight at Dodger Stadium because it's expensive to get in there and all the drinks cost a lot. But these fools wilding out, fighting amongst each other, throwing stuff at the players. It was just out of control.
And the Padres and Dodgers want to brawl.
I thought the benches were going to be cleared for sure. Flaherty and Machado, I was hearing them going back and forth with each other all the time.
Machado said, "I'll meet you outside."
Yeah, they were going to meet in the parking lot.
Cash me outside.
Is that crazy? You are outside, player. You are outside. You mean the parking lot. I think you said to be the parking lot. I'm like, are they about to fight? What's going on right here?
The interesting thing is, I saw Dodger on Dodger crime. It wasn't just Dodgers versus Padres.
No,
I'm like,
it's crazy, dude.
My buddy used to have season seats, and he said, "Steve, look, I'm Mexican. We graduated together, Harvard of East LA, Montebello, 1990. So he's Mexican, grew up in East. He said, "Steve, there are certain sections I don't sit in."
Dude, Raza's crazy, dude. I don't know why you want to spend all that money just to go start shit and just get kicked out. It's so crazy. Everybody was tripping around me. I was like, no. Rob Lowe, who's sitting right now, said, "You're good. Don't worry. We're good."
So the series is tied 1-1 now, right? It's a real series.
It's a real series. What do you think?
Well, you know me. I want the Padres.
No, but what do you think?
Well, I don't. The Dodgers. Look, if the Dodgers don't win the World Series, it's another disappointing year.
Hey, well, first of all, we like I said, we don't have any pitching. Everyone's hurt. So you can't win without pitching. That's what counts. Our lineup's great, but it's hard. So we'll see.
And Mario, speaking of warm weather, I couldn't believe I was in Oakland/Berkeley/Bay Area for the Miami-Cal game, and what a great comeback.
That was a good little comeback. I thought
Great,
of you.
35-10. I'm thinking, man, I need to go visit the nice parts of Oakland. But you know what? It was late at night when they actually scored in our end zone. The Cal fans were all revved up, and it was very depressing for the Calgorithm. Couple things on Oakland. Their airport, 5 stars out of 5.
Come on.
It's very efficient, very clean, and the way they do their Uber, Lyft, shared ride system, LAX can take a little. They could take some pointers.
Well, that's why I always try to travel. Yeah, but that's why I always try to travel out of Burbank if you can.
Yeah, and they do a hell of a job. And by the way, I'm eating breakfast with the celebratory Bloody Mary on Sunday morning, and a guy comes up to me, one of the workers, "Hey, Steve, just want you to know, I listen to 3 Knockdown Rule, big fan." And he just talked about how I have to carry you, but he likes the show in spite of you, and it's really about. I said,
That's
"You know
very
what?
nice.
Thank you, brother."
I'll take it.
That couple of fans came up and said, "We watch you on either the 3 Knockdown Rule or the Coach JB show." So shout out to all those people. And Mario, when I think of the Bay Area, I always think of an area that is about 25 degrees cooler than LA. It was actually warmer up there than it was.
Really?
It was in the upper 90s.
Wow, because I do.
Right.
I too think of it. It's always cooler.
Yeah, but it was warm.
Really?
Yes.
Surprising.
The game started at 7:30, didn't end until 11. Still felt like it was 75 degrees.
Wow.
Perfect weather. And once again, let's go Canes. Great comeback. Mario, big day, big honor for you on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, man. After 40 years in the business, I'm getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I feel very grateful. I can't believe it. And, my parents, of course, are going to be there and the family and stuff. And great location. Right across the street from the Chinese theater.
What?
Right in front of the Wahlburgers. And coincidentally, my boy Wahlberg is going to be giving me the award and stuff. So we were cracking up. I go, I can't believe it's right in front. And he goes, "Who are you by?" And I look down. You know who I'm by? Bill Cosby.
Oh,
I'm from Bill Cosby. And he's like, "I'm going to see if I can switch." I go, "Dude, we'd be cemented for life. Homies for life right there."
Now, do you have a say in where it is, though?
No, of course not. I thought it was going to be like a down Vine. By the way, I wouldn't have cared as long as I'm on the thing, but I couldn't believe it. Can't get better than that. Cross the street from Chinese theater. That's crazy.
Now, are you going to have one of your workers like shine it up every month? Make sure, a lot of footprints.
My gosh. Well, it was cool. They let my kids and my wife go, and they don't do this, I guess, for everybody. Actually plant the star and put the little TV and all that. And my son tells me, I can come down here when you're gone, Dad, show my kids and tell them that I got to do this and all that. And I was like, oh, it's getting me all choked up and stuff. I said, I go, quit trying to kill me, but yes, you can.
Now, do you get anything else like a plaque, anything that commemorates it beyond the
I don't know.
star?
I'll find out on Thursday.
Okay, that'll be very, very fun.
Yes.
Mario, there's been a lot of great documentaries, but I remember them. The Menendez brothers, they got one on Netflix. Oh, boy.
They've been trending everywhere, the Menendez brothers, and it seems to be headline in every newspaper and articles all over the world. They've been in there 35 years, Kim. And your girl, Kim Kardashian, along with a lot of other, your other girl, Rosie O'Donnell, and along with a lot of other celebs, are saying it's time for them to come out. What? They were abused. They've done enough time. And there's a big movement. And the DA is actually considering a possible retrial or saying that they've served enough of their sentence and they need to be let free. That is what's trending right now. After seeing this show, and granted it's a fictional show, but just seeing the facts, and my sister, who was a criminal justice major, studied them in school at the time. And I had a conversation with her, and I go, am I crazy to think that these guys are lying? And she says, Mario, they're exactly where they need to be. You're 21. The brothers were 21, 19 years old, right? They were saying they were getting abused. I'm sorry, but you're a grown-ass man at that point. Either you can team up, take care of your dad, or call the police, or just leave, all that. They were spoiled little rich kids, and that they could have done that. They confided into the psychiatrist after that's how they got pinched, really, after they killed their parents, that they killed them because they couldn't live with the guilt. In many sessions, through all those sessions, they never mentioned that they were abused. They were comfortable enough to tell them they killed them, but not that they were abused. Third thing, as soon as they killed them, within 3 weeks, they spent $700,000 in 1989. That's like $2 million.
Well, that's their original therapy.
That's exactly it. Coping with it, therapy. And another thing, the father was the only one that did the abuse. Allegedly. Why'd you blow away the mom? Why'd you blow away the mom? Bro, and not just blow her away. They blew them away, unloaded, went back, put in more bullets, blew them away again. That's crazy. And the last thing I'll say is, aside from the money, the fact that they were old enough to leave, and they spent, the blowing away of the mom really, really bothers me. And the psychiatrist thing is the one that really bothers me, because if you have something, pardon me?
Screenplay.
Oh yeah, and then the dude wrote a screenplay.
Like a year before,
How to Kill Your Parents. Or some
what?
Shit. Exactly. So you know what I mean. All this doesn't bode well. And then they came out with the abuse thing. So everyone's saying they were abused and that they were feared for their lives. If they were like 10,
right, it's
12,
it's different.
Different. I get it. 21 and 19, bro. Am I crazy to think they're exactly where they belong?
F. Lee Lopez, you have stated a convincing case. My view is lock them up for life. One interesting side note about the Menendez brothers. They're actually on a basketball card.
Yes, Mark Jackson.
Yes,
you saw that? By the way, that was within the 3 weeks when they got after they killed their parents.
And front row. They were living well. They were in the bleachers.
Bro.
Give me a break.
Dude, they each bought themselves a Porsche and like 3 Rolexes each. They were staying at the Bel Air Hotel.
Oh, man.
These are facts. This is not, that's wild. Can you believe? Yes.
Oh my God.
They each had a limo.
They couldn't share one.
So
they their own.
stupid, the whole thing. So I'm like, wow, all this sympathy. I'm in the minority, by the way, in thinking this. Believe it or not.
I'm with you. You've convinced me.
Okay, good.
You've stated
Frazier,
your case very
most
well.
of the people, right, think that they should be released.
Yeah, I'm with you, though.
Yeah.
Most people, no.
And Mario, finally, this Saturday afternoon, we're going to make an appearance at our fine sponsor, Hustler Casino. We had a great time last time watching Usyk Fury.
We did. Those guys are really cool over there, and it's a fun place. They got good food, and the TVs are all set up.
I'm watching a lot of college football.
Come hang. I know you're going to post up early. I'm going to get there for the fights. Maybe I'll try to get there maybe a little bit early.
Yeah, shake a few hands, kiss a few babies.
We'll hang out.
Have some stuff to autograph if you're so inclined. But we're going to have a great time. And Bivol, Beterbiev is going to be a hell of a fight. And I believe Tom Loeffler and some of the local fighters that he promotes, they're going to be there. So get to know them. Have a great time. You know what? Lay down, play a little Pai Gow. That's my game.
Can you play Pai Gow?
No, I'm just Asian. Also,
I was going to say,
play a little pachinko. But anyway, play a little old maid, poker. I might even play a hand or two. Put down a few
there you go.
bucks.
I'm going to play with you then.
You know what? That's what we're going to do.
All right, we'll see that.
All right, so anyway, on behalf of Mario Lopez, Smoking Tim Frazier, and Tino on the edits, this has been the 3 Knockdown Rule brought to you by Hustler Casino.